guys, and welcome to another video. And today I'm going to be talking about Franscisco Vazquez de Coronado. Vazquez de Coronado was born into a noble family in Salamanca, Spain. He was born 1510 and died 1554. Vazquez de Coronado went to New Spain, present-day Mexico, in about 1535 at about age 25. He married 12-year-old Beatriz de Estrella and got a large portion of Mexico. He went on an expedition. The expedition had two components. One component carried the bulk of the expedition supplies, traveling by ship on the Sea of Cortez. The other component traveled by land a long trail on which Friar Marcos de Niza had followed Esteban, an African. Vazquez de Coronado set out from Compostela on February 23, 1540. At the head of the expedition, the head of an expedition composed of about 400 European men-at-arms, mostly Spaniards, 1,300 to 2,000 Mexican Indian allies, 4 monks, and several slaves. He followed the Californian coast northward until he reached the northernmost Spanish settlement in Mexico, San Miguel de Culiacan, about March 28, 1540. Then he traveled inland. Vazquez de Coronado traveled north on one side or the other of today's Arizona-New Mexico state line, and from the headwaters of the little Colorado River. He continued on until he came to the Zuni River. He followed the Zuni until he found a region inhabited by the Zuni people. The members of the expedition were almost starving and demanded entrance into the village of Hawica. The Zuni denied, and Coronado attacked and won. 3 leaders affiliated with the Vazquez de Coronado expedition were able to reach the Colorado River. Alarcon's fleet was tasked to carry supplies and to establish contact with the main body of the Vazquez de Coronado expedition, but was unable to do because of the extreme distance to Cibola. He hauled some supplies for Vazquez de Coronado, but eventually he buried them with a note in a bottle. Melchor Diaz was sent down from Cibola by Vazquez de Coronado to take charge of the camp of Corazones and to establish contact with the fleet. Soon after arriving at the camp, he set out from the valley of Corazones in Sonora and traveled overland in the north direction until he arrived at the junction of the Colorado River and Gila River. There, the local natives, probably the Coco Maricopa, told him that Alarcon's sailors had buried supplies and left a note in a bottle. The supplies were retrieved, and the note stated that Alarcon's men rowed up the river as far as they could, reaching in vain for the Vazquez Coronado expedition. They had given up and decided to return. Diaz died on the trip back to the camp. Hernando de Alvarado was sent to the east and found several villages around the Rio Grande. Vazquez de Coronado had one commandeered for his winter quarters, Cufor, which is across from the river from present-day Bernalillo near Albuquerque, New Mexico. During the winter of 1540 to 41, his army found themselves in conflict with the Rio Grande natives, which led to a brutal Tigua War. This war resulted in the destruction of the Tigua pueblos and the deaths of hundreds of Native Americans. Vazquez de Coronado found a settlement of people he called Querechos. The Querechos were not awed or impressed by the Spanish. Their weapons and their big dogs, aka horses. Another guide, probably Pawnee and named Yosopidi, and probably Tejas as well, told Vazquez de Coronado that he was going in the wrong direction, saying Quivira lay to the north. By this time, Vazquez de Coronado lost his confidence that fortune awaited him. He sent most of his expedition back to New Mexico and continued with only 40 Spanish soldiers and priests, an unknown number of Indian soldiers, servants, and guides. Vazquez de Coronado dedicated himself to a reconnaissance rather than a mission of conquest. He reached Quivira in about 40 days' travel. Quivira was well settled along good river bottoms without much water, and good streams which flow into another. Vazquez de Coronado spent 25 days among the Quivirans trying to learn of richer kingdoms just over the horizon. He found nothing but straw-thatched villages of up to 200 houses and fields containing corn, beans, and squash. Vazquez de Coronado returned to the Tigua province in New Mexico from Quivira and was badly injured in a fall from his horse. His expedition had been a failure.